news, transfer news, match previews, legend interviews, Spurs women, press conferences, covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast and another edition of the viewers and listeners' comments and questions. I tell you what, in the last couple of weeks, we've done a lot of these and I've really enjoyed them. You really get into knowing exactly how everyone feels right now. We today, this evening, will be going through comments that you have left on YouTube, left on X, Instagram and Facebook. So it's going to be an interesting one. At the moment, we are live on YouTube, we are live on Facebook, and we're also live on X. So please do get involved this evening. Let us know how you are feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Let us know how you are feeling about the transfer window so far. There is 22 days left of the summer transfer window. And of course, as we all say, Spurs have it all to do. Lots of outgoings, not many incomings, but I do expect a lot to be done in the next 3 weeks. Joining me yet again is channel regular and a good friend of mine, Craig Dearman. He is back. He is refreshed from his holiday in Turkey, looking very tanned. Craig, how are you?
I'm all right. It's actually pleasant to be back in a nice climate. As much as I liked being in the sun, it was just unbearable in the evening. It was 40, 42, 43 during the day, and obviously cooler at night, but it wasn't pleasant at times. It was quite muggy. So yeah, good to be back. I've kept up with a lot of the news, or lack of it, should I say, while I've been away. It's 2 weeks to the day since I've been on, I think, and I was kind of hoping there'd be a bit of a frenzy while I was away, but as we all know, not much has happened. So
well,
yeah,
there's been a lot of news.
There's been a lot of news, but not much actually substance to it, is there? So it's like trying to pick the wheat from the chaff, I suppose, and just weeding out rumours and just things people have made up. And yeah, it's all been a bit of a mess at times, isn't it? But would you expect anything else with this club?
There is a lot to get through. There's a lot to talk about. But as usual, Craig, on these episodes, it is all about the viewers. It is all about the listeners. And many thanks to the thousands of them for giving us so many comments and giving us so many questions to discuss on this channel. It's incredible. Let's start straight away with Liam Kennedy on X. Evening, Chris and Craig. Frustrating day, Solanke or Toney? Of course, since the last time you were on, Craig, all these reports about Dominic Solanke possibly joining the club for £65 million. What do you make of Dominic Solanke? Are you a fan?
Having looked at, a bit underwhelmed, to be honest with you. I was asked the question, would you be excited or underwhelmed with Solanke? I was a bit underwhelmed, to be honest, because there's just part of me thinks he had a very good season. Like, not a one-season wonder as such. I've always thought he was a decent player, but is he our answer up top? I've never been convinced, to be honest. But he did score a lot of goals from low crosses into the box last season. He'll certainly get a lot of those chances at Tottenham. So, but for me, the question is more like, why aren't we going for both Toney and Solanke? Andrew's already said we are light up top. We all know that. And Solanke can play on the wing as well. Toney, we know, is just through the middle. But, if you want to achieve things, you need at least two decent centre forwards in that position, which, of course, we haven't had, have we, for years and years. So, if it was a choice from the two, I'd probably still edge for Toney, to be honest. But I think we'll all be pleased if we can just get some form of striker over the line. But obviously, as I've said many times, Ange obviously likes what he sees in Solanke, and I trust him to make that decision.
Craig, on the previous episode with Melvin, a couple of the viewers called me grumpy because I expect I was being a little bit frustrated, feeling frustrated. Don't want to come across as grumpy, but I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic today because if Spurs have concrete interest in Ivan Toney, and apparently we've been talking to Bournemouth and Dominic Solanke about a possible move, it means that Spurs are trying to address the issue And I am feeling optimistic today that in the next 3 weeks we will have a striker in the door. Richarlison today has come out and said that he wants to stay in the Premier League. It's going to be interesting because I think that a lot of people think that he's going to stay at Spurs. If he says he's going to stay in the Premier League, it might not be at Tottenham. He's turned down this big money move to Saudi today, very publicly come out and said, you know, it's a lot of money, but he's following his dreams in the Premier League. Of course, he posted a picture of him scoring at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and said, I'm at home. What do you make of Richarlison coming out and saying that he wants to stay and rejecting a move to Saudi? A couple of comments here left on YouTube. Paul Askey writes, this makes me deeply sad that Richarlison is staying. KJD said Richarlison will score 50 goals this season. And Glenn's 1800 said, good on Richie for staying. What do you make of it?
I'm not sure he's going to get 50 goals this season unless he drops down to the Brentwood Sunday League. But I don't know.
Training.
I don't know. Yeah, perhaps they will count. I used to count training goals, so yeah. It's a funny one, Richarlison. I've said many times I don't think that he's the answer for me. I like his commitment. I like his work rate, but he's never got over. I think I'm right in saying he's never got over 13 goals in any season in the league. I don't think that's a good enough return. I wouldn't have been gutted to see Richarlison sold and moved on, to be honest. But you've got to have a succession plan. You've got to have the players coming in, and whether you believe reports, and again, there's so many, and we don't know any more than anybody watching this. You know, what are rumours, what's true, what isn't. Have we got to sell before we can buy? I don't buy into that myself. I don't see how that's right. I don't see how that's the way to do things. But it looks like you say, that Richarlison is going to be staying and fighting for his place next season. It's an interesting one for me. He hasn't hit the heights we all hoped he would have had. He's had injuries. I think he should be looking to move, but he's one of these players that polarises, isn't he, Richarlison? Like I say, I love his work rate. Apparently he's good around the team and the changing room, but is that enough? It's not for me. If we want to be challenging for things, I don't think Richarlison's the answer.
Craig, the Sun newspaper today have stated that Tottenham signing a new striker is not dependent on Richarlison being sold. Now, there has been a lot of conflicting stories and articles published in, well, I'm going to say recent days. It's been pretty much through the whole transfer window so far. And the Sun have also stated that Spurs are growing in confidence of signing Dominic Solanke. It's interesting because in the last couple of days, I've seen a lot of comments, and we also discussed it with Melvin, that a fit and an Everton Richarlison or a Dominic Solanke, who would you choose? Because I think it's pretty easy to choose a fit and goal-scoring Solanke rather than an injured and non-firing Richarlison at Tottenham, because I think it's fair to say, I know there are a lot of Richarlison fans out there, but it's fair to say that we haven't seen the Richarlison from Everton at Tottenham.
No, that's right. I don't personally, I'll say it again, I'll stand by, I don't think he's ever been clinical. You know, I know you're not talking Harry Kane levels here. Harry Kane was a phenomenon. There's not many of them around. But for me, he just doesn't convert enough chances. He gets himself into the positions. He's decent in the air. But he just doesn't, his conversion rate, he's not good enough for me. And as I say, Solanke, brilliant season last year. Can he keep it up? Henge seems to think so. You know, and we're beholden to reports on X and the like by reporters and people that know a lot more than we do, that Ange likes what he sees in Solanke and sees him fitting into our system, you know. So for me, if it was a choice between the two, do you know what? That's a really difficult one. But if you're talking a fit Everton Richarlison, I think for me, Solanke just edges it. But I think we should be aiming a bit higher than that. You know, I think we should be looking for, as we've said many times, I don't like the word, but marquee signings. But having said that, Solanke has done it in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's a really difficult one.
I expect the big question from a lot of fans is, you know, can he do that again? 19 Premier League goals in 38 games for a club where they finished as well. It wasn't a top 6 club that he was playing for, and he still managed to score 19 goals in, you know, a struggling side at times last season. Richarlison's actual comments today were, there has been an offer from Saudi. My dream of playing for Brazil in the Premier League speak louder. The money is big, but my dreams are bigger. Tiger Tony has left us a comment here saying, I was hoping we would be able to offload Richarlison to Saudi and get most of our money back. Is there a part of you that feels disappointed that Richarlison won't be moving on? I know there's kind of two sides to this, that the player moves on, and I think a lot of people have got it into their heads now that we won't sign a striker until someone like Richarlison is sold, because that, you know, a lot of reports were published in that way. But the Sun newspaper and other outlets have been publishing since, especially today, that it's not dependent. If Richarlison stays, then it still means that Spurs could bring in another striker. And this is exactly what I've been saying on previous episodes. Spurs should have someone like Richarlison and somebody else, because, you know, how many times have we both said Spurs should have more than one striker? All that time of Harry Kane, just having the one striker. I don't know how we got away with it for so long, but we did.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Kane, when Kane was injured, invariably, we struggled, but of course we did manage to get to the Champions League final by hook or by crook somehow. So yeah, I mean, Solanke, just looking at the comments, the viewers are totally split on both Solanke and Tony, aren't they? It's incredible. You know, just reading them all coming through, you know, it's literally 50-50. Whereas other players we've been linked to in the past, it's been more or less 90-95%. Yeah, get him in. Get him out. It's 50-50. It really is. So I don't think anybody's opinion. Look, I'm all for everybody having an opinion. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong, you know. But it just goes to show, doesn't it? I think, like Jason has said here, look, Neto and Eze. You know,
I don't think we're going to get either of them.
Exactly. It looks like the Eze deal is dead in the water now. Neto's gone a bit quiet. So, look, I wasn't concerned. I came on here 2 weeks ago and I said I wasn't that concerned, and I still stand by the fact we've got to give them till the end of the window. I don't think it's fair to make a proper assessment till the end of the window. But as I say, I'd have hoped by now we'd have seen some ins rather than outs, you know, and we haven't seen anything. So that I'm getting a little bit concerned, because Ange wanted these guys in, whoever it is, before pre-season. Didn't happen. The Premiership starts in 8-9 days. Obviously, we're playing on the Monday, but you know that's not long. Even if the player comes in now, he's going to have a week, best part of a week to get in, meet the lads, settle, and everything. So yeah, there's still work to be done, as you say.
It's 11 days until Spurs face Leicester City in our opening Premier League game of the 2024-2025 season. Craig, on Instagram, Rob W1970 says, not sure this shows great ambition. This is about the possible signing of Dominic Solanke. There has been a lot of criticism from fans about the links to Dominic Solanke. He has been at Liverpool. He's also been at Chelsea, but it didn't work out either club for him. Bournemouth, he took a time to settle in, and of course last season was his best return in a Premier League season. Do you think he can do it in a Spurs shirt? Because when we had this debate, and a question came up yesterday with Melvin about, is he a Champions League striker? If he was playing in the Champions League, would you be backing him to finish chances against Champions League clubs? I know Spurs aren't in the Champions League, but of course that is the goal for the following season. But when Rob says about not sure this shows great ambition. Are you surprised? I know you just touched on it there about Ange and about wanting signings in early. He's spoken so often about having the plans in this window in particular. When we see the reports about Solanke, and now we're seeing the reports about concrete interest in Ivan Toney, do you think even at this stage, 3 weeks, 1 day to go of this transfer window, do you think that Spurs actually know which striker is number one on their list?
Probably not, if I'm honest. We've as I said before, we've had rumours about people that's on the list, and we know that list isn't massive because that's not the way Ange works. So from what we understand, as far as strikers go, it's always been Solanke. We've always had a long interest in Solanke. We've had an interest in Toney. There was links to Santiago Jimenez and Jonathan David. That's the four I can think of off the top of my head. Now, all of those, bar Solanke, has been fairly quiet, really. And what order Ange has put those in, I haven't got a clue, because they keep things so quiet. I think a lot of the reporters and the people that put out stories, I think they're just looking for clicks, some of them, and because they genuinely don't know.
It's weird, Craig, isn't it? Because some journalists are putting out some stories, and then, like, literally within the hour, some other journalists are saying, well, that's not actually true. I don't think I've seen much of that before. This transfer window, we seem to be seeing it a lot, and Spurs seem to be keeping a lot of things very close to their chest at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's difficult to know as well whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, isn't it? When things get poo-pooed by somebody else, you know, like Fabrizio Romano might say something, and then I don't know, another sort of trusted tier A, tier one report comes out and says, no, this isn't true. You know, they've dropped, like the Emerson Royale thing. We had, like, you know, they're 5 million apart, 1 million apart, and then it's fallen through, and then Romano came on and said, no, it's not fallen through. So you just don't know who to believe. And in many ways, I used to prefer it in the 80s and 90s, when all you had was CFAX to go by, or read about it in the paper the next day. I think we're given too much information sometimes, and it just stirs the fans up into a frenzy, you know. And I'm carried along with that, with like everybody else. I think things were simpler back in the 80s and 90s, to be honest. I think it can be so stressful for a fan, this transfer period. I love it, but I hate it in equal measures, and you just want it over with. But obviously, this is, how many times have we been here? How many times have we been in this exact position saying Spurs need to make signings? And of course, we did last year. We got a fair few in early. I think all of us thought we'd had a pretty good window. Obviously, Van der Ven's just, I think, a year and a day he's been here. But this year's been a bit different, and we know the key areas we need to strengthen in, and it just doesn't seem to be ramping up, does it? You know, so I'm a little bit concerned that we haven't done any business. But like you, I'm confident we will get a centre forward, because I think if we don't, I think the fan base is going to go mental.
I don't think Ange will accept not having a striker in this transfer window, Craig. I just, that's why I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic. I like all these links because you and I have said on this channel many times, particularly recently, about Ivan Toney, and I very passionately last night with Melvin said that, can you imagine Ivan Toney, and I'm going to choose these two players in particular. Imagine if Spurs signed Ivan Toney and Eze in the next 3 weeks. I know it's unlikely that is going to happen, but if that was the case, that we went out and identified those two targets, signed them, got them over the line, can you imagine how that fan base would be feeling right now going into the brand new season? I tell you, everyone would be thinking Spurs are going to achieve something, because that's what it can do. That is what the next 3 weeks can do for us. 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 signings. You know, it could be a major difference to how everyone is feeling optimistic going into the new season. It will certainly help Ange Postecoglou going into the new season as well. Samuel writes on X here, how close are we to sign in Dominic Solanke. And Till Bicycle says, is Solanke links cover for us pushing for Ivan Toney? Well, that's a good question. Craig, if you had to choose between them right now, I take it you're going to go for Ivan Toney, because I certainly would. He would be a cheaper option as well. Not that I'm saying that we should go for a cheaper option, but in terms of finishing, if we were to talk about finishing, Solanke or Toney, who is the better finisher? Because Solanke scored 19 Premier League goals. Of course, Ivan Toney didn't play half of last season because of the betting scandal. Only scored a couple of goals for Brentford last season, but we know what he can do.
Yeah. I think Tony's hold-up play is good, and you got to throw Richarlison in the mix. I know you're asking me about two there, but I've always said Richarlison's hold-up play has got to be better. We know Tony's hold-up play is very good. Solanke's a different sort of player. He can run in behind. He's got a bit of pace. He's tricky. Toney brings others into the game. Toney is more like Harry Kane, isn't he? Really, if you're looking for a like for like of Harry Kane, Toney's probably that man. Yeah, in answer to your question, between the two, I would personally go for Toney. I don't know. None of us know what his temperament's like, what his personality's like. So, as I've said before, you would hope, and seems to be a very, very good judge of character. So he would have met him, he'd meet him. Who knows what's going on behind closed doors? And if he likes what he sees, then you'd like to think we'd be putting in a bid. But I just can't get my head around why these things take so long. I know transfers aren't always like Premiership manager or playing FIFA or whatever, and you say, go out and get him, just go and buy him. I know it's not as simple as that. But we've had 2 and a bit months now where we've known and said from at the end of May, we know what our targets are, we know what our key positions are. And I get the Euros was in between, but I said, as soon as the Euros finished, you expect it to ramp up, and it just hasn't. I don't know what they're waiting for, and people a lot cleverer than me will have answers to those questions. But as you say, I think everything's being downplayed, kept close to Spurs' chest, because things are out there, have been out there before, and it's gone tits up. So we're just going to have to wait and see how this pans out.
Craig, on YouTube, another comment here. Up for the Cup wrote the following: if it is really Dominic Solanke who Ange Postecoglou wants, this could have been done for the pre-season tour. Yeah,
can't argue with that. Yeah, they should have been having discussions with Bournemouth long ago.
So do you think that someone else was the number one target? Do you think that now Dominic Solanke is way down the list, and we had other targets who we just couldn't get?
It's a definite possibility. Yeah, 100%. But again, why has this taken so long? Why has this taken so long to sort out? If Toney was the number one, they would have known about this. The questions would have been asked. It's just a weird one for me, and I don't have all the answers. I just have opinions. But as somebody said there, Solanke would be better at pressing than Toney. I totally agree with that. And he would probably fit Ange's system better than Toney, if I'm being brutally honest. But out of the two players, who would I rather see? I'd have to say Toney, even though Ivan Toney's not my favourite ever player and never will be. Out of the two, he would just edge it for me.
What do you make of the fans' frustration at the moment? Because this one did actually make me laugh, and it probably shouldn't, because I do these every day, multiple videos every day. Christian Hill said about today's 60-second, or one of 60-second updates today, this is the same 60-second update from about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, you'd be forgiven for watching one and think, have I clicked on the wrong thing, or have I sorted it in the wrong order or something? Yeah, and it just goes to show, isn't it? I remember you saying to me when you was trying to do one once, it was so hard to get news, because there was just nothing going on. And yet there's tons of news at the moment, but there's no news, is there? That's the thing. It's the most weirdest sort of in limbo sort of situation we're in at the moment. And something's got to give soon. Something's got to start happening. We're struggling to get players out as well, it seems. The only two. I think I've read a comment earlier. The only two we actually managed to get rid of without begging people to take them is Højbjerg and Harry Kane. The rest have like really been difficult to move on. But surely they must have known the players they want to get rid of. You know, if Emerson Royale, you know, sorry to just go back to Emerson, but if they know they wanted him out, and why did he go on the pre-season tour? I know we were short of defenders, but you know, Emerson could have got injured, and then it's not what you do, is it? But what do I know?
Craig, it has been widely reported by very reliable journalists that Spurs want 3 in the next 3 weeks before the window closes on the 30th of August. A striker, a winger, and a left back. Would you be happy with 3 players in the next 3 weeks, and would you be happy with those positions covered?
The left back one confuses me a little bit because Udogie's fit now. We've still got Ben Davies at the club, and Mickey van der Ven can play there, and we've got Dragozin who could slot in the back too. So if you're just talking about covering that position, you can kind of do it. It depends how much they want to spend on the left back. The left back coming in, he's going to know they are back up to Udogie, essentially. I don't like that word. I think you should be challenging. I want to see, you know, Spence stays. I've said before, I want to see Spence pushing Porro and Porro pushing Spence. I think that's how you build a decent team and a decent squad. If we can get 3 players in, however, and it's those positions, then I'll be happier than I am now because we've actually got 3 players in. But like Andrew said, he doesn't want just anybody. He said, I'd rather bring in nobody than bring in just any old Joe Bloggs to say, oh, look, we've signed someone. So that's the part I trust in Ange. He would give green light something. He would, as far as we know, he would have the final say on outgoings and incomings. So you've got to trust that process.
Some latest quotes from Ange Postecoglou today on potential signings and the transfer window. He said, I'm a big fan on players who are really excited to join the club. You might think that it should be a given, but it's not always the case. Craig, another comment here from Cool Vids on YouTube. This is going to the last day of the window. I think we all agree on that. I think that, you know, even the striker, imagine if it is Ivan Toney that we want and Spurs want to put in a cheeky bid for Ivan Toney of, I don't know, 30 million, 40 million, and Brentford, you know, obviously it's pretty obvious that, you know, Brentford are trying to play it cool with Ivan Toney, but they definitely want to cash in on Ivan Toney before the season starts, or even, you know, before the deadline on the 30th of August, because they will not want him leaving on a free transfer at the end of the season.
Yeah, and perhaps Spurs are playing the game. There's a comment there. Not many clubs have done loads of business. He's not been that busy, has it? It really hasn't. So perhaps we are biding our time with Toney. Perhaps we know that all we've got to do is push the button on Toney. Perhaps it's got to. We know Paratici had about 10 balls in the air, and he's ready to just push the button, basically, on any of them. Perhaps we've sounded out Toney. Perhaps Brentford are. I don't know if Brentford have bought anybody in. Actually, I haven't kept up with that. I should have looked at that, to be honest with you. But if Brentford are linked with strikers, then perhaps they are looking at releasing Toney. And that one, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think you're right on that.
They brought in Thiago, but then of course he got injured, and I think he's now injured for a good few months. So that leaves them in a bit of a situation. And again, if they are going to offload Ivan Toney and cash in on him to a club like Spurs, then of course they will want time to go out and spend that money on a replacement. So you would think, you know, it could go to the last day, but then of course Brentford will want time to spend that money if that was the case.
Yeah, and I don't think they want to wait till January just to see if this Thiago, you say his name was, becomes fit. So, and like you say, they're not going to want him to walk away on a free. You know, a smaller club like Brentford, that money's going to do a lot for them. So you are right. I think they're going to have to offload him this window if he's clearly not going to sign a new contract at Brentford. So that they will have to do some business in that area. But I still don't think it's going to be within the next week. I think they're going to hedge their bets, and it's going to go down to the final week. Personally, if we are indeed interested in him.
Craig, Tony Kelly writes, just because Tanguy Ndombele was a failure at the club, it shouldn't mean that Spurs never spend big again. Of course, I've said on this channel many times, I'm not one to be calling out for, spending hundreds of millions of pounds on players, because it is about the right players. And, evidently we have seen with the likes of Tanguy Ndombele, Lo Celso hasn't given us that much in the time that he's been at the football club, a couple of good games here or there. But regarding spending big, when do you think the next big signing will come in at Tottenham? And do you think that the club are a little bit reserved in that respect of not wanting to perhaps risk a lot of money in certain players?
No, yeah, I get that. They had their fingers burnt with Ndombele, certainly. That's the standout one, isn't it? Club record signing, and it was an absolute flop. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go big again just because of that. City have got a few wrong, haven't they? They paid big money for Calvin Phillips, and that didn't really work out. So they get more right than they get wrong, and that's why they are who they are. But if we've got targets that are going to cost a fair bit, like Eze, for example, and not wanting to go for Eze because Palace want 50, 60 million up front, that's kind of what you've got to pay, and that's what big clubs would pay to get the players in that they want. It's clear to everybody that Ange would love to have Eze through the door, but it looks like that's not going to work out. But it just does frustrate me. I know people are blaming Levy, right? We don't know. As far as we're told, Levy stepped back a bit. I know he probably gets to sign off a lot of things, but there's other people at the club that are supposed to be doing this transfer business. Johan Lang, for one. There's a lot of people behind the scenes. There's people being added to that team of players. So, I'm going to reserve judgment on it. I'm not going to start moaning and slagging people off again until the end of the window, because I don't think that's fair to make that call and make that assessment until it's all done and dusted. If we do a transfer show on the day the window closes, Chris, and we haven't signed anybody, then I think we're well within our rights to kick off about it, to say exactly what we think. That this is just not acceptable, because if we want to push on, we're in Europe now. We had a big squad last year, remember, it just wasn't good enough. So Ange will want a squad of about 25 players, perhaps, but 25 players he can trust. He clearly couldn't trust some of that squad last year, and they just weren't good enough. So work's got to be done.
Craig, are you worried at all about the depth of the squad right now? Because Ange said that the squad is stronger now because of the growth within the squad. And of course, Archie Gray has come in. Bergvall has come in as well. We're just about to lose Emerson Royale. Højbjerg's gone out the door. I don't want to seem negative. I'm just thinking about the squad itself, and we saw after 10 games last season how it derailed our season with a couple of key injuries and players being suspended, etc. And when we had certain players out, we really struggled. And when you put in now that we're playing at least another 8 games in the Europa League, I know we've spoken a lot about the youngsters coming in, the development players coming in, and fair play to every single one of them for taking their chance and opportunity during pre-season. But do you worry a little bit about the experience, the depth within the squad, if we don't go out and buy some experienced players in the next 22 days?
I think we do, and it boils down to what I said. He wants 25 players that he can trust, and he clearly didn't last season. I've liked what I've seen so far in Bergvall and Archie Gray. I think Archie Gray is going to be an absolutely sensational player for Tottenham for many years to come. I like what I see from Mikey Moore. I like Will Lankshire. I've always thought that he should stay at the club, not go on loan and get some game time this year, because I think you'll get opportunities. Donnelly, I think, is a fantastic player. George Abbott. Some of these might not be ready to step up to the first team, but you're not going to know until you put them in. So there's plenty of options for him in that regard. And having such a talented pool of academy players, I think does paper over the cracks a little bit. But look, hey, that's what the academy's for, to bring these players through. They're not all gonna make it, and most will be sold and moved on or whatever. But I think we've got the best crop of under 21s and academy boys that I've seen in a very, very long time. And we shouldn't poo-poo that. We shouldn't go out and want to sign youngsters from other clubs and across Europe at the expense of our academy, because anybody who's watched those under 21 games and the pre-season games, more so to speak, you will have seen how good some of these boys are, and they should be given a chance. Now, perhaps Ange sees them as an option, save a bit of money like that. I know that's not what people want to hear, but that might be what he's thinking. Why am I going to go out and buy somebody when I've got a Will Lancashire here that can play up front? I don't think he's ready to be our main striker. I'd still like somebody to come in and perhaps Will to be the backup and learn the trade from somebody a bit more experienced. But from what I've seen, he doesn't seem to faze him or any of the youngsters. I think they've all been absolutely fantastic. But we need, like you say, some experienced heads in there, because we've lost Højbjerg. We lost Dyer early in the season, and I know people didn't like Dyer, but he was a leader. He was well-liked character, and people would listen to him. Obviously, we lost Harry Kane. We need that balance. The old thing, you can't win something with kids. Obviously, Ferguson shut everybody up with that. But I think this is a bit different. We need that balance across the team, and I just want a couple of other experienced players in those key positions, certainly up top, because we are lacking there.
David Barfoot writes here, yeah, we do have some class young players. Jack immediately after says young players need quality, experienced players around them. I was criticised in the last couple of days saying exactly the same thing, Craig, and a lot of people said, well, yeah, but you've got Heung-min Son in there, you've got Maddison, you've got Romero. There are experienced players in this team. But like I've said, under Ange and under various other managers, it always seems that we are a couple of players away from thinking that we can really push on to that next level. Because I also feel that when you've got a squad like ours, I think it's good enough for a certain level. But if you then want to push on and move on to that next level, you then need to upgrade a couple of other players, and you need to bring in experience in certain positions. Definitely have striker options, because when everyone was talking about Richarlison possibly going out the door and someone like Dominic Solanke coming in and Spurs only having one striker again, no matter what happens in that area, in that final third, if we only have one striker and then that striker gets injured, you are then relying again on Heung-min Son coming through the middle, and then you're losing him on the left, which can be, which can have a huge dent on this team, the way that we play sometimes. What I'm trying to say, I think, is that we need other options up front. Ian Brazier on YouTube writes, good news about Richarlison staying, but we need 3 strikers. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't Ange Postecoglou have a field day with 3 strikers?
Absolutely. Like I say, why not get Tony and Solanke in? And then you've got Tony, Solanke, Richarlison sticking around Will Lancashire as the 4th striker. So he'd certainly have options there, and Solanke could fit in anywhere across that front line, really, as well. So, yeah, we always seem to be one player short, don't we? 1 or 2 players short. We've said many times that Pochettino team, if we'd gone out and gone big in the January of that year, we nearly won the league. I think we would have won it. We might have even got a Champions League. And we just seem to be a little bit short all the time. And I know a lot of fans will think the same about their clubs, perhaps not Manchester City, but you seem to be on the cusp of doing something, and we just don't quite get what we need in, do we? I hope that changes, obviously, but yeah, as I say, there's not much concrete going on at the moment, is there? And somebody said about Eric Dyer as a leader. I think he probably was, But look, he wasn't. He had some good games for Tottenham, didn't he? But he was never. He was never the answer, Eric Dyer, bless him. But, you know, hey, he went to Bayern Munich and they loved him over there. So fair play to him.
Do they?
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah. I mean, he was, the fans absolutely loved it. Well, last season.
Who told you that?
Some German bloke, I know. So. It is weird, though, isn't it? Because he became first choice, didn't he? It's weird. Very strange.
I laughed then when you said concrete because Eliza wrote on YouTube earlier today, concrete, cement, whatever. Craig, when we talk about money and when we talk about Spurs actually spending money in these windows, financial expert Kieran Maguire has stated that Tottenham's commercial income has trebled from £70 million to £220 million from Spurs moving from White Hart Lane to the new stadium. And of course, this is going to increase further and further. So it is good news for Spurs financially. In future transfer windows, and I know we've kind of spoken about this a little bit before, when you look at the two previous windows under Ange Postecoglou, Spurs got business done early. Ange Postecoglou said again that in this window, he wants business done early. Yes, we've signed Archie Gray, but when we're talking about, you know, proper business, we're all thinking about strikers, a winger, a left back, a number 6 that has been spoken about so many times. Are you confident in future windows that Spurs will go out and spend substantial amounts of money and getting the number 1 targets that perhaps, you know, rightly said, fairly said, that we haven't got the number 1 targets in previous windows under various different managers?
It'd be remiss of me to say, yeah, absolutely. I can see us totally doing that.
But I say that because the stadium, and this has been said at board level as well, the stadium was meant to be the game changer. The stadium, you know, with the income, you know, with all of the extra events at the stadium, you know, the stadium can now hold 30 non-football events every single year. The money that is being ploughed into the football club is unbelievable. So we should see that money being spent in future transfer window, should we not?
We should, and that's what we was all told, wasn't it? That revenue is going to be going back into the first team to buy players. We just haven't seen it yet, and I'm still not convinced that's going to happen. But I've said before that we need to get to a point where we only need 1 or 2 players in a window. Like City last year, for example, they targeted Haaland, they went and got Haaland. That's the sort of position we want to be in, but we're not there yet. We're still building to get there. We've been through it so many times on this channel. Like, how many players do you think we need in this window? I think most people that come on here have said 6, 7 or 8 players this window, and it's still not done. Ange has said it's not done. He doesn't. In fact, Ange come out and said, I don't think we'll get it all done in this window. Does that mean completing his ideal squad, or does he mean the targets that they had for this window? Are they not going to get all that done? We just don't know. But I would like to think that money would be spent, as you say, and going at our top targets, big money spent on big players. But we all know, we've all been here before. We know what it's like. And the board haven't sanctioned big money moves. And it's, you can throw around the Celso and Ndombele all you like, but you know, they have done it in the past and it hasn't worked out. We all were really excited about Ndombele, and we know how that ended. So
could you imagine though, Craig? Like you said earlier, can you imagine Spurs go out and sign Ivan Toney and Dominic Solanke? You sign both of them.
It shows
ambition.
They mean business. Yeah, absolutely. It shows they mean business and it shows ambition. And the fans would be like, okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
And like I say, we all have to be aware there's 22 days left of the window and we can't honestly judge it until then. I don't think you should. But I would have hoped that we would have had some in by now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Silence writes here, are we still being linked with Amir Richardson? It actually looks like he is now on the way to Fiorentina. So that doesn't look like he'll be coming to Tottenham. Craig, Danny G has written on YouTube, if we get another striker, Richarlison may well change his mind. If when it happens that Spurs sign a striker in the next 22 days, how will that make Richarlison feel? Because we know that he can be sensitive to situations. Is it going to make him work harder? Is it going to make him score more goals? Is it going to make him, take his opportunities far greater than he has done in a Spurs shirt so far? What reaction do you think Richarlison will have if Spurs sign another striker?
I don't think necessarily another striker coming in will drive Richarlison on to suddenly become a 30-goal-a-year striker. I just don't see that happening. He might see his future elsewhere if we get in what is clearly a first-choice centre forward, like perhaps Tony or even Solanke. And his head might be turned by a Saudi, but he has come out and said he wants to stay in the Premier League, and he put that picture out of him home, didn't he? I'm home or something. So whether that means the Premier League or whether that means Tottenham, he was obviously at the stadium in the picture. Is that him clearly saying that he's staying around no matter what? It wouldn't surprise me if he is staying. Depends what sort of money they're talking about from Saudi. But if he's going to be a backup, he was backup to Harry Kane, remember? And you'd think that would have driven him on to score more goals. Look, I don't dislike Richarlison. As I've said, I love his work rate. He tries hard. He cares about the club. But I just don't think he's good enough.
This is a good point here from Dr. Johnny D7. It says here, Richarlison started as a winger. He's right-footed, could play right wing. He's played at left wing. He can apparently play both. Now, when we signed Richarlison, Craig, I was very open to the idea of signing him because I said on various videos, he can play on the left, he can play on the right, and he can play through the middle. I didn't expect him to play so much through the middle when we signed him. But as we know, Ange Postecoglou loves versatile players. If we did sign a striker, such as Ivan Toney, Solanke, or someone else, does that now open the door for Richarlison to say, look, put me back out on the left or I want to play on the right? We know that, looking at various games, certainly in the last 12 months under Ange, Brennan Johnson can play in all positions. Dejan Kulusevski, we've seen him play in multiple different positions, including through the middle. Sonny can do exactly the same thing. Ange loves versatile players. If Richarlison does stay at the club, could it be the fact that he does go back to the left or the right? Or, I expect, professional footballers, when they want game time, they'll say to the manager, you can play me anywhere. Sonny's happy to play anywhere.
Yeah, he will have his preferred position, but yeah, you could argue he could play across the front, but that's where anywhere across the front. Sorry, but that's exactly you've hit the nail on the head. That's why Ange probably likes Richarlison, because he's versatile. I just don't think he's the answer for Tottenham. I don't think he's going to take us to the next level. And he didn't do the business when Harry Kane was at the club. You could argue he didn't get the chances. I thought when we signed him that we'd strengthened in a position of strength at the time. I thought that was really good business, but he's just not kicked on for me. So I just don't think he's the answer.
Does he like Richarlison? You said that Ange likes Richarlison. Does he like him enough to want him to stay at the football club next season? Because various reports today, Craig, have stated that Spurs would entertain an offer if an offer was made for Richarlison. It's all well and good Richarlison saying, it's okay, I want to stay. He didn't say Tottenham, did he? He said the Premier League. Read into that, what you will. But he wants to stay in the Premier League. Does Ange have the faith in him that he can be our main number 9 or compete for that number 9 role because of the problems on and off the pitch that he has had in the 12 months that Ange has been there?
I don't think he does. I think he's where he's probably a lot. We're guessing here, but I would imagine he's perhaps where he is with Richarlison. He wouldn't mind if he did hang around. He's not trying to force him out the door. But on the other, having said that, if he wants to go, I don't think Angie's going to be too bothered that he does go. I think that's probably where he is because he's different. I don't know how many years he's got left on his contract, 3 years, something like that. So there's still obviously money to be made on him. And if, like we're led to believe, Saudi were willing to pay 50, 60 million for him, then the club are going to bite their hand off to sell Richarlison. But the player's going to obviously want to go, isn't he? So you can't force somebody out the door that doesn't want to go. So that's where I think Angie's probably at with it. He won't mind if he does stay around, but he won't be crying much if he does leave.
David Allen Ware writes on X, should we be happy or disappointed that he doesn't want to take the Saudi gold?
It depends where you sit, isn't it? It depends if you're a Richarlison fan or not. It's just that's the answer, isn't it? If you don't rate Richarlison, you're going to be gutted that he's not going to be moving on. If you like him, then you'll be pleased that he's staying and say, committing to the club. But we don't know if it is the club. Like you say, it did say Premier League, but he was at the Spurs Stadium in the photo.
Yeah. Matty R writes on X as well, I like Richarlison. The Everton version was always a real handful. I'm perfectly fine with him staying, but please sign another striker. Tiona Russell Zulu writes on X, I don't see us signing another number 9 anymore. That's our way at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. I'll answer that, Craig, because I'm with you. Let's all review the window on the 30th of August. I know it is a little bit disappointing and frustrating, but out of all the reports today and in the last couple of days, Spurs are actively trying to find a striker, a new number 9. I just hope it's the guy that Ange Postecoglou wants to bring in, and whatever players we do bring in, let's hope they are those impact players, statement signings, whatever you want to call them, that are going to take the football club forward and compete for something next season. Compete for a trophy, perhaps. The Europa League. I'd like to see us go very far in that. I'd like to see us go far in the FA Cup and win the competition. We haven't won it since '91. A League Cup since 2008, and I think it's very, very important for the football club to get back into the Champions League as well. But I do get the fact that Ange Postecoglou is building something, and I do get the fact that it has been a major rebuild in this past 12 months. And as Ange rightly said, probably 50% of the people, backroom staff and the players who were there last year aren't there now. Craig, have you been impressed by that, with the amount of people that have gone out the door?
We've certainly got better at it over the last year, shifting players on, moving them on, getting the ones out that the manager clearly doesn't rate or are not in his plans. We've got better at it, but there's still work to be done. It's as simple as that. Previously it's been notoriously difficult to get players to move on because pretty much they are comfortable at Tottenham and happy to pick up a wage. I think Ange has handled a lot of these situations very well, to be honest, and made it clear to the players that they're not in his plans and they're going to have to find somewhere else to play their football. The Regulons, the Gills, you've got many players like that. Even there's rumours Skip could go out on loan now, which surprises me. Not that I think
and Solomon.
About Skip, and Solomon as well. I mean, personally, I've seen enough Solomon in pre-season. I was hoping he'd be a better. I thought he would come back better than I've seen of him. I think the injuries have taken their toll. I don't think he's a bad player, but he's clearly not going to get much game time at Spurs this season. I doubt very much. So I think probably a loan for him is a good move. But Skippy going on loan does take our homegrown quota down. So that says to me, if Skip does go out on loan, then Angie's going to be promoting a fair few of the academy boys into the team.
TSOM writes here, cup campaigns were awful last year. I think we've spoken at length about this, Craig, but it's very important, isn't it? You know, cup competitions to Tottenham Hotspur fans are very, very important. We used to be known as the cup team, used to be winning cups on a regular basis. And, you know, like I said, we haven't won a European competition since '84. We haven't won an FA Cup since '91, and haven't won a League Cup or a trophy, indeed, since 2008. So I would love to see Ange, you know, guide Spurs to something special in the very near future. But I think that the cup competitions, certainly for this coming season, have to be handled in a different way. The League Cup should be handled in a different way this year, shouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. We've said many times that we know the fans were disappointed with the 10 changes he made at Fulham. And you could argue we lost on penalties, and Davinson Sanchez missing his penalty, you know, cost us. But I still maintain if he put out a stronger team in that game, we would have come away with the win against Fulham. And I think it probably shocked Ange that the fans kicked off so much about that. I could see what he was trying to do. In, you know, he said he doesn't know if he can trust these players until he tries them, and he got a few answers that night. But yeah, it didn't quite go according to plan, did it? As we've said, you know, playing 41 games across a season is just, it's one more than the minimum you could actually play, which is incredible, isn't it, for a team like Tottenham? We all know we weren't in Europe, and we've got to give these cups a run this season. We simply have to, because the fans won't stand for that again. If we went out of the League Cup we was out of the League Cup before September last year, remember?
In August, yes, in August.
So bloody depressing. So we've got to give it a good run.
King Hoddle writes here, Europa League, let's make it 3. And I've got to say, King Hoddle, thank you so much for all of your comments and your support on this channel. I noticed that name come up all of the time. You are on every single stream that we put out. So thank you so much for your support. Talking about the Europa League, Craig, the Europa League draw for Tottenham is actually on the 30th of August on deadline day. That's going to be a very busy and entertaining day in so many ways. Of course, the Europa League, we're playing 8 games, 8 different clubs. It's going to be the new format this coming season. I asked Melvin this yesterday about the approach to the Europa League. You know, as you know, I was a big fan of Mauricio Pochettino, but he was always worried when we played in that Europa League in his first season. He was always worried about the Sunday game. So it was like he would always put out a slightly weakened team because he was always worried about that Sunday game. How does Ange Postecoglou approach it this season? Do you think that he will go strong on the Thursday night, try and get the job done, and then rest some of the players, bring on some of the development players, you know, in order to rest some of the first team players for Sunday's game? Because we even saw Pochettino in some of the FA Cup games rest the likes of Eriksen, but then ended up bringing them on. You know, I would have liked to have seen it the other way around, get the job done first, rather than then having to bring the big guns on because the other players haven't done it in the first place. How do you think Ange will sort that this season?
I think it depends on the transfer window as well. You know, if it goes back to having a squad that you can trust. I think if you've got a squad of 23, 24, 25 players where it doesn't really matter, you haven't got a first choice 11 where you've got 23, 24 players you trust, then it shouldn't really matter. I know you're going to have his favoured back four. We know what that is, for example. But if he can bring in a player and there's no change in the quality, we all know the players that came in last season, the quality just wasn't good enough. It wasn't there. I think it depends on who we get in over the next 3 weeks, Chris, to be fair. Like you, I always want to see us winning games first. Play your strongest 11. Who he thinks his strongest 11 is more likely to win us a game. I've kind of contradicted myself there, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. And then perhaps give some of the academy boys a run. So and give the first teamers, if you like, a more of a break. But it just didn't work last season. But as I say, he clearly didn't trust some of those players. You know, we had 2 goalkeepers on the bench for some games. So and with the injuries, the squad was looking quite thin. And we simply got to replace those players, and we've got to do something about it this year.
Zach writes here, Chris, would you be happy with any silverware this season? Manchester United were able to claw their way to a cup after a shambolic season. Absolutely. I would love to see Spurs win a trophy. And I've said so often on this channel over the years that I've done YouTube, 7 years I think it is now, which has gone really, really quick. The amount of decent players, real quality players and managers for that matter, you know, when you think of like the manager that we've had, Pochettino didn't win a trophy at Spurs. Jose and Conte, you know, win now managers, won everywhere they've gone, haven't won a trophy at Spurs. The likes of Ericsson, Toby, Jan, Dembele, Gareth Bale. I tell you, the list is absolutely endless of all those players that have come to the club, left the club. Harry Kane, of course, you know, and not won a trophy. I'd love to see Heung-min Son as captain lift the trophy. Of course, Hugo Lloris didn't win a trophy either. I tell you, the list is absolutely endless. Craig, I know this question always comes up, and I know Zach didn't ask it, but I'm going to ask it. A trophy, I know top four is extremely important to the club, finances, you know, players coming in, etc., and the future of the club. But are you now at the point where you want a trophy over top four?
Yeah, I am. Top four is important. Yeah, it shows progression because we finished 5th last year. But for me, if we can just get a trophy, I think that you get that monkey off your back, so to speak. I think the fans need a trophy. Now, whatever trophy that is, I'll take the League Cup. I'll take the Audi Cup at the moment. You know, it's just getting something in the cabinet. It's long overdue, as we've said many, many times. And we could win a trophy this year, but we've got to play it right. He's got to pick the right team at the right time. He's there if we want it. We've been to finals, we've been to semi-finals, we've just fallen short. It's long overdue, Chris. We desperately need a trophy.
Stephen writes here, Son deserves to lift the cup. Stephen, I also notice your name come up all the time and watching all of these streams. So thanks so much for all of your support and comments. Talking about Heung-min Son, Craig, of course, next year it will mark his 10th year anniversary at the football club. What have you made of his 10 years and what did you make of his return to South Korea in the last couple of weeks? And of course, Spurs captain for the 2nd season. He's got a big season ahead.
Yeah, legend, absolute legend, Sonny. I love his commitment. The man that he is, the leader he is. He might not be the most vocal on the pitch, not that sort of leader, but leads by example. I think he's a great ambassador for South Korea. He's like a king over there. The fans absolutely love him. Anytime he's been linked away, he's come out almost straight away and said, no, I'm staying at Tottenham. It's what the fans want to hear. He shuts it down straight away. He obviously loves the club. He probably wants to see out his career at the club. Was a great ambassador when we went to Korea again in the summer. Obviously got a lot of media duties out there. Was probably very, very busy, along with a grueling training schedule as well. Takes it all in his stride. He's just, apart from being a fantastic footballer, he seems just a wonderful human being. I'm absolutely so proud that he's at our club and our captain. A lot of players could learn a lot from Heung-min Son.
Yeah. David Arnold writes here, Chris, how many times have you been to watch a final and seen them win? I tell you what, I'm going to simply answer that. Not enough. I said on a radio interview recently that in the last 10 years, I've gone to 5 finals, 3 for Spurs and 2 for England. And we have lost the whole 5 out of 5. And I also mentioned that Harry Kane has played in all 5. Not that I'm blaming him. You know, I've been in the stands watching all 5. And I tell you, it's hard. It's really, really hard to follow Spurs and England and lose that many finals. I just hope that, you know, success is around the corner for both England and Tottenham. On the England front, Craig, I'm going to ask you a question here. It has been widely reported today that former boss Mauricio Pochettino is now the leading contender to be the next England manager. How would you feel about that?
I said when Southgate went that I thought Pochettino would be a fantastic choice for England manager. I'm kind of in the camp. I'd like to see an Englishman do it. I always think he should be an Englishman, but Pochettino, I think he would be a good manager for England, and we'd certainly be playing more attractive football internationally if he was manager. He's probably a good fit for him. Would imagine he would take the job if offered. I wouldn't be against it, Chris. What do you think?
I'm not sure. When I think about the England job now, I know Gareth Southgate took England to that next level. And, when I was on those, many trains coming home after that final, I thought, Gareth Southgate's time is up. I think that he's probably drained of it. He's probably thought that he's taken England as far as he can. I do like the fact that, someone who's played for England should manage the England team. I do stand by that. Of course, we've had foreign managers come in. I just feel that it is different when that happens. Mauricio Pochettino, I'm a big fan of. He plays very, very entertaining football. I don't know, Craig. I honestly don't know about Poch. And I couldn't even give you a name now. And that's probably why the FA haven't appointed anyone yet, because there are no standout candidates at the moment to get that job. Design Loving Lou has said, get Graham Potter in, he will be magic. That wouldn't inspire me to have Graham Potter in as England manager. And I honestly, at this point, it's expected that Lee Carsley is going to take over as interim boss for a game or two, because they're still thinking about it. Terry writes now, Potter makes a lot of sense. Perhaps he does. I'm just not with it. So it's gonna be an interesting one, and I think they're going to take time over that decision, and rightly so. Craig, also, Spurs announced that Ledley King will be presenting Eric Dyer and Harry Kane with gifts on Saturday as Spurs take on Bayern Munich in our last pre-season friendly. How are you going to feel seeing Eric Dyer and Harry Kane in Bayern Munich shirts? I know, of course, we see it on the TV, but it's very, very different when we see them up close and personal inside the stadium. And it is a possibility that Harry Kane could knock in a goal or two at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What's the atmosphere going to be like if that happens?
Look, it's going to be weird. More Kane than Dyer, if I'm honest. It's going to be weird. I haven't watched much of Harry Kane at Bayern Munich. I've only really watched the odd Champions League game. We obviously all know how well he did last season individually, but obviously, as we know, didn't win a trophy again. I'll be at the game on Saturday. It will be very, very strange if he scores. Will he celebrate? I doubt very much he will. Will he get a good reception? I hope he does. I'm pretty sure there'll be a few Harry Kane's. He's one of our own songs. I don't think it's going to be deafening. I don't think it's going to be all game or anything like that. But it would be good to see him back at Tottenham and how he reacts. I really want to see how he, the emotion of coming back to Tottenham, because he is a Tottenham boy. How's he going to feel? So I'm actually looking forward to that. I just wonder what gifts Ledley King's going to be giving him.
That'd be interesting. Yeah,
but no, I'm really looking forward to seeing Harry Kane in a play for Bayern. It just seems weird. I still think if he's still banging in the goals, I think there'll be rumours about him coming back next summer. I do, and I've said that from day one.
Craig, of course, we have a lot of love for us and the regular guests on this channel. We do also have a couple of trolls as well on occasion. And Terry writes here, and I think it's very important to put these types of comments on the screen and discuss it as well. Chris, the reason we lose every final and semi-final is because you happy clapper fans celebrate crap signings instead of a fan base demanding top players that win things. Terry, I don't think you've listened to the last hour or so of this podcast, and I don't think that you've listened to previous podcasts that we have put out, and I don't think that you have probably listened to anything that I've said in the last couple of weeks. So if you've just tuned in and you are probably guessing what I've said or what we're about to say, then I suggest that you watch this stream from the very beginning. What I don't like is when people tell me what to say, how to say it, who to say it to, how to feel, and tell me what I feel when you haven't even asked me the question. So feel free to put a question on screen or put a comment that we can talk about and answer, but don't put comments like that aren't true, or spread lies to say that we are happy that we are signing crap players, because none of us are. And ultimately, every single Spurs fan wants exactly the same thing. We want to see the best players. We want to have the best players. And we want marquee signings every single window. We want the best manager. We want the best players. And we want success. And we want trophies at the end of the day. So I'm not sitting here being a happy clapper saying that I'm happy with any old signings, because I'm not. We record podcasts like this on a regular basis, sometimes daily. A lot of the times weekly, and we are all saying that we want top quality signings in. So Terry, if you're still with us in this stream, please put a comment who you'd like us to sign, and we'll talk about it. Craig, we're very passionate on this show, and I feel like everyone that comes on, everyone has their say. Some people are a little bit more outspoken than others. I feel like we're quite balanced. I feel like we cover every single area. We say the good points, we say the bad points, we have the positives, we have the negatives. What do you make of comments like that, calling us happy clappers?
It just makes me laugh, really, because it's so easy to sit there and he's like, "Oh right, okay, I'll write something." I just don't get it. You must watch these streams. I thought what you said there was great. Actually. I couldn't have put it better myself. If people think we're happy clappers, fine. Do you know what? I don't care, but we're not. We call out the club when we're not happy. We've said on here many times. I've lost count the amount of times I've come on here. You've said Melvin, Gary, Darren, Ricky Norwood, Matt, and I've probably forgotten a couple of the lads that's in our group.
Hold on, Craig. Terry's back, and Terry, fair play to you for putting this comment here. I've seen enough of your streams, mate, and you talk up crap signings. You said that Timo Werner was a good signing and made sense. Crap signings that fans like you accept. I have said many times, particularly since the Newcastle game, that Timo Werner is not good enough for Tottenham Hotspur to take us forward. He has been extremely wasteful in front of goal. And I have said many times on this channel in the past couple of months that Spurs need better players than Timo Werner. So if you've been watching these streams, you clearly haven't had your earphones in, or you clearly haven't listened to any of them. So that is my take on it. Honestly, I don't know why I bother with some of these people when it's like they don't even listen. Sometimes people just want an argument because they just want to be, they want attention. I'm not giving you any more. Yeah. Craig, on the Bayern Munich game on Saturday, of course, it is our last pre-season friendly. Have you been impressed with our pre-season?
I thought on the whole it's been pretty good. I thought we were good against Hearts. We've looked good in some other friendlies. I thought the last friendly against Bayern we looked absolutely knackered. I haven't been on since that game. In fact, any of the pre-seasons before last couple of weeks. So when I was watching, sitting on the sunbed, trying not to get sweat into my phone because it was bloody hot where I was. I did watch all the games. We just looked knackered against Bayern. I don't think you can read much into pre-season. It's all about the fitness and getting minutes into legs. It's obviously always nice to win, but we haven't looked terrible. I thought the second half was a lot better. I just don't think, those minutes in the legs, you can't buy that. He's given the academy boys plenty of time. Some of the youngsters have looked really good. I think you're going to see a different performance at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday against Bayern. I think they're going to come out all guns blazing. I think they're going to try and certainly perform. They want to perform, and probably there's a bit of showing Harry Kane and well, probably Eric Dyer They won't worry about the fans. Won't worry about Eric Dyer too much. But you know, show Harry Kane. Andrew will be saying, go and show the likes of Harry Kane what could have been. You know, just go and win that game against Bayern. They want to finish on a high and win against Bayern, because I think that'll be a pretty good statement. I think it'll be quite a competitive game Saturday, because this is the last friendly before the season starts. So you want to finish on a high. So yeah, I'll be expecting a good performance on Saturday.
Paddy has written he didn't understand why I read out Terry's comments. The reason why I read everyone's comments out and we try and get through as many as we can, because we do have thousands of comments on these streams. So thank you so much for all of your support and your comments and questions. Is that I want to give everyone a chance to have their say. Quite often, especially in the last couple of years, people say that I don't talk about certain subjects. We don't talk about the board. We don't talk about you know, spending. We don't talk about certain aspects of the club. On these chats, there is no script. On these chats, I have people like Craig on. We had Melvin on yesterday. We had Ricky Norwood on last week. We had Brian Daigle on a week or so ago. And he is extremely critical of the board. So I have everyone on this channel, and it is very important that we have everyone with their views, no matter whether you are a positive fan, a happy clapper, if you like, or a negative fan, or you are moaning about everything under the sun. We want to hear from everyone. We want everyone's views on this channel. And I'm very proud to say, this is a very successful YouTube channel. It is very successful on the audio platforms as well. #1 in South Korea this week. So very, very proud of that. And if we didn't talk about all aspects of the club, then it would be very one-sided. We don't want to be a one-sided show. We don't want to be a one-sided podcast or YouTube channel. So I think that is very, very important. Craig, before we go, we've got through hundreds of questions today. So thank you so much for all of your input on today's show. Craig, anything that we haven't spoken about, anything that the listeners and the viewers haven't asked today that you want to say?
I think... what's your take on? We touched briefly on getting players out. What do you make of this Emerson Royal thing? I know we spoke about it briefly earlier, but how has that got to a point where they were 10 apart, then they're 5 million apart, then they're 1 million apart, and then it looked like it's collapsed, and people are saying it hasn't? What's your take on it? What do you think's actually going on with that?
I think it will eventually happen. Craig, from what I understand and all of the reports that I've read, Emerson Royal clearly wants this move. He has agreed terms with AC Milan. There were reports out earlier on today stating that AC Milan are now looking at other positions. But the reports in Italy from the likes of Gianluca Damasio, a very, very reliable journalist in Italy, is stating now that it is extremely close and this deal will be done. I believe that Emerson Royal will leave in this window, and I think that it's one of them that he will be better off at another club and we will be better off cashing in. But I've said that on so many episodes in this transfer window. Of course, all eyes now are on us getting the players in, because I have praised, and some people perhaps don't like this, I've praised the club during this window in terms of outgoings. You know, I think that some people forget what a kind of mess that Ange Postecoglou walked into 12 months ago. You know, all those players, you know, you guys on the Spurs Chat podcast, you all called them the Deadwood. You know, all of those players having to get out the door. Spurs have done a decent job in getting these players offloaded. And let's face it, players like Emerson Royal, do they want to be here? You know, he said in a recent interview, I've spoke to the manager and I want to be playing. I want to be playing every game. I want to be starting games. I said this to Melvin yesterday about Oliver Skipp. If I was Oliver Skipp, I'd want out. You know, because at the end of the day, Craig, playing football, even when I played Sunday League, the thought of being on the bench, not starting that game, I'd have hated it. I want to be, as a footballer, no matter what level you're playing at, you want to be playing all the time. So I think for Emerson, I think it's definitely, a great move for him. But I can definitely see that one happening.
Yeah, I would think it's just gone too far now. It'd probably be unusual for that not to happen. I think they will get done, whatever stage they're at. It does look like they're still close. And I wonder if Simone would know a bit more. I haven't seen any updates from him. But I think that will get done, like you say. I think we still need to shift on 2 or 3 players. I'm quite pleased for Valise that he went on loan as well. I don't think it was quite clear that he was going to get a look in. Dane Scarlett probably needs a loan as well, in my opinion. Whether they decide to cash in on Dane, I don't know. It's been difficult for him, hasn't it? He was touted as the sort of new upcoming player from the academy, and he seems to have been overtaken by Lancashire at the moment. So that was quite clear in pre-season. You could see he was higher up the pecking order. So still work to do, still players to go out, but more importantly, players to come in now, I think.
Martin writes here, Chris, I want to win the Premier League and be champions. Is that too much to ask? I tell you what, I've said exactly the same. And I know some people will probably shout and say this is going to sound ungrateful, but I don't want to just be a top 4 club. I want to be challenging for the Premier League. And I've said this on every single episode that I've ever streamed, is the fact that I want to be, a Spurs fan who thinks one day that we are going to win the Premier League. But of course that takes time, and it does take patience under a manager. He's been here for 12 months. He's changed an awful lot of the football club already. Let's hope that he is backed in this window in the next 22 days. Let's wait and see what happens there. And if it is a really successful window at the end of the 22 days, let's go again in January, and then let's go again next summer, because hopefully, as every month goes on, as every year goes on under the same manager, and let's face it, we've had 7 different managers, including Pochettino, in the dugout in the past, since 2019. That's a lot of change at the football club. But Ange needs time, he needs patience, and hopefully he will be backed in all windows. And hopefully we can, move on and be title contenders. Because let's face it, Craig, he has said he wants to be title contenders, in 12 months. He said that some months ago. So, at the end of this season, he wants to be title contenders.
Yeah, and if we're all honest, it does seem a fair way off at the moment. But, we've got the likes of Vuskovic and Yang joining in January, remember? So we've already got 2 signings for January already. Both of them look pretty decent acquisitions, if you're asking me. But we still need that core nucleus of experience, I think, just to cover the gaps that have been vacated by the likes of Højbjerg and Kane, because we never really replaced Kane at all, did we? So, a very big 22 days coming up. It'll be interesting to see Ange's press conferences and any quotes that come out if things are getting a bit, tense towards the end and we've done nothing. As I say, I did expect over the time I was away for there to be at least one decent signing through the door, but it hasn't happened yet. So we've just got to keep patient and trust the process.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, I can't thank you enough for all of your input this evening. And we've also got over 2,000 people watching this stream across YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. So thank you so much for all of your support. It's incredible the numbers that we are getting on all of these podcasts talking about all things Tottenham Hotspur. And remember, we will be doing a lot more of these shows, taking all of the viewers' comments and questions. And I'm picking all of the comments and questions from videos that I upload from my Instagram, from Facebook, and of course X. So if you don't follow me on any of those, please do hit that follow button, and we will get through as many as we possibly can on the next episode. Craig, you will be back with us very soon again. You can't go yet, guys. No, we could be here all night, actually. Melvin and I, we got off the stream yesterday and we said that, Melvin said, like, we could be talking for 3-4 hours about Spurs. And I said, well, it could actually be longer. We could talk, all night. With the amount of comments and questions that come in as well, Craig. I've got to ask you, actually, as a regular contributor and a channel regular on here, how overwhelmed are you by the level of support and the great comments and feedback that we get?
It is phenomenal. I obviously talk to you about it. I'll speak to my wife about it, and I'll say, or she'll see a tweet you've put out that says we're #1 in Korea, #2 somewhere else, or blah blah. Far-flung countries sometimes, like Colombia. It was a weird one, wasn't it? When Colombia was in the top 10. It's just weird because obviously you can see the comments coming in on the right when you do these things. I'm looking at them and they're scrolling through many. It's just, but as far as you're concerned, when we're doing it, you can see the number in the top left-hand corner, the amount of viewers. But it's just actually, me and Craig, you talking.
While you're talking, can everyone who's watching on YouTube, live on YouTube at the moment, just tell us where in the UK or where in the world you're watching from? Because this always blows my mind of how far and what a reach this podcast has, because it is listened to all around the world. And as Craig said, #1 in South Korea this week is just unbelievable. But Craig, you get a lot of love, don't you?
Thankfully, most of it is nice. I never say anything on there, and I'm quite proud of the fact I've never said anything on here that I don't believe in. I never say anything just to agree with somebody or say something that I think the majority would like. I know not everybody agrees with everything I say, but it would be a bloody boring world if we all agreed on everything, wouldn't it? So what was that one? What was that previous one?
Craig is a favourite of the older female friend.
I love that. I love that.
Craig has a lot of female fans. Yeah.
That's I don't know what to say to that other than thank you. Yeah.
He's gone all red and embarrassed.
I've gone all red. Yeah. You can't see me. I've got a bit of a tan going on here, so it's covered up my redness. Somebody's watching from Uranus. That's the reach of this podcast. Merely millions of miles. That's brilliant. Pluto. Somebody.
We've got Jamaica. We've got Norway. We've got Nigeria. Australia. It is unbelievable. Cornwall.
Brisbane. Cornwall. Yeah. India. There's another one there. Utah. It's amazing that we get a lot of American viewers as well, don't we? People think the Americans don't like football, but we get a lot of American viewers as well, Canadians. But the South Korea love from the people of South Korea, it's fast becoming. Well, it's always been on my bucket list to go. I know you've been, Chris, but I must get out to South Korea at some point before I die, because it seems like a very special place full of very special people, to be honest, from everybody I know that's been there. So they absolutely love South Korea, the people, the food and everything. So Melvin. So yeah, absolutely fantastic love from all around the world. We can see somebody's in the Bricklayers Arms, lovely. Is that somebody's put Fuji or Fiji?
Fiji, yeah.
Fuji.
Incredible, yeah, Fiji. Incredible.
If that's real, of course, we don't know. Some of these may well be made up. I'm sure somebody's not sitting on Pluto watching. I don't think you get very good reception.
I should have said, all of the exotic places, please do invite Craig and I over. We will gladly stay with you for a week.
Yeah, we'll do a pod. If you want to take us to Korea,
we will happy clap all week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh dear.
This is brilliant.
My God, there are so many. There are so many.
I like this one. Look, Craig is very big in the care homes. Love that.
Incredible. Yeah, it blows my mind every single time when I ask that question. Amazing. Craig, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you back here very soon. And where can people find you on social media? And what are you up to at the moment after your holiday? Back to work?
Just trying to get back into work. Obviously, it's always bad the first day back, which was today. yeah, it's really hard going back to work after a break, isn't it? But got that first day over with. I'm on X at Dearman9 if you want to give me a follow. That'd be lovely. And if you see me at the stadium Saturday, I'm in the South Stand. Say hello, and I'll say hello back. Don't be shy. Happy to talk to anybody, even if you don't agree with what I say. Always nice to meet the fans. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. It's as Chris said, the love's brilliant, and even some of the hate, but thankfully the hate is not anywhere near as popular as the love. So all good.
I just wish sometimes that people would listen to what we say rather than guess what we say.
Yeah.
So sorry about my little rant earlier, but it just kind of infuriates me sometimes that people just want to guess what you feel rather than actually ask you what you feel, because the whole Timo Werner thing, I've had that quite a lot. People say, "Oh, you're a big fan of Timo Werner," but yeah, there you are.
Yeah, people are. Thank you very much, Mr. Altman. Love you too, darling. The thing, somebody just asked me where am I sitting. I'm in the South Stand, row 7, right behind the goal, literally level with the crossbar. So yeah, right in the middle. So yeah, hopefully we will. I'll see a few goals going. That'd be great.
Yes, absolutely. Well, enjoy the game, Craig. I'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening, and thank you so much for all of your incredible support. We are nearly at 122,000 subscribers on YouTube, so cannot thank you enough. We will see you on the next one. Until then, come on, you Spurs.